Welcome, everybody, to Inside Basketball Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, brought to you by MyBookie.ag. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host, former Indiana Hoosier, Steve Risley. How you doing tonight, Steve?
Hey, Mike, doing pretty good. How about you?
Oh, great. First time we've been live on the Indiana Basketball Weekly show. We didn't publicize it much, but for anybody that's listening in, you can hear the show live whenever we're on through thegruelingtruth.net. You can also hear us live through Spreaker, which gives you the ability to chat with us. Type in any questions you want for myself or Steve. We'll answer them live on air. Steve, the Indiana Hoosiers win tonight 70-53. If you were betting on mybookie.ag, they were favored by 17.5, so you lost if you took Indiana and gave the points. The big thing that concerned me overall was the first half, and the first half looked like those first two games the Hoosiers played this year.
Yeah, there was definitely a little slide off in Seton Hall, but I think that would have to be expected. Before we get started, too, you can also tweet on @GruelingHoops. I have my Twitter page up right now, and if you want to tweet there, I can read the Twitter as we're going, too, and I can answer questions that you might ask through Twitter if you want to. It's @GruelingHoops, and I do have my Twitter page up and running right now. Back to your question. The same issues are continuing to crop up with this basketball team, and I guess a lot of it is to be expected given what really this program is facing right now. The biggest glaring problem I see with this team right now is just lack of leadership. We're starting to establish some offensive power with Morgan and Johnson and Davis all getting in double figures fairly consistently now. But there's just nobody on the court who is controlling the tempo or controlling the intensity levels and when to turn it up or drop it down a little bit on the basketball court right now. And I think it's coming up, and that's pretty much the root of all the evils that are happening to this basketball team, along with some fundamental issues right now we'll talk about. What do you think?
Fundamentally, what I saw a lot of, in the first half especially, a lot of stupid mistakes, forcing passes that shouldn't be forced. And in the second half, they caught some of them. But overall, I think they need to clean up the mental mistakes.
Yeah, turnovers. I think at the halftime they had 8 or 9 turnovers. He ended up with only 12 in the game, according to the stat sheet. I thought there were probably a little bit more turnovers than that, so I don't really know how the scores are officially keeping a turnover. But, again, I go back to kind of what we talked about a little bit after the Seton Hall game, is that there are two kinds of turnovers that you make. There are really dumb turnovers, like dribbling it off your foot or just not knowing the offense and passing the ball where somebody's not there. And then there are turnovers that happen because you're trying to make things happen. And we've had this discussion, and for the lack of wanting to jump into the Department of Redundancy department, I'm okay with, at this point in the season with this young team, for the turnovers that happen, that they're trying to make passes happen. Now, in the first half, they tried some things. They had some good backdoor cuts. They tried some threading, some passes. They didn't work. In the second half, they worked to a higher percentage. And that's probably where we saw the separation in the score starting to occur, was that these passes were getting through, and what would have been a turnover in the first half, just by nature of sheer luck at this point, ended up not being turnovers in the second half. But irregardless, your observation's right. We're going to have to start by finding leadership, and then we're going to start by just eliminating dumb turnovers. We're just not a good enough talented basketball team to be making stupid turnovers in a ball game and giving the ball up. I think looking at the stat sheet, we had turnovers off our offense, 15 turnovers, off the offense, and that turned into 19 second chance points for South Florida. So we're giving up 20 points, which is what they scored 50 in the game.
Yeah.
53. So we're giving up almost 1/3 of our points, a little over 1/3 of our points off of turnovers. And you get against a team like a Seton Hall or a Duke or a Louisville or a Michigan or any Big Ten team, and you're just going to get buried into that. I mean, we were just a little bit more talented than South Florida tonight, and that's probably why we won the game. Go ahead. Your comments or feedbacks on that before we get into the next segment.
Well, my thing, number one, with the leadership, I think a lot of that could be, even though they spend a lot of time with each other in the summer, I think it takes a while, especially in a game situation, to adjust to a new coach. And I think the guy that stands out there as the guy that probably should be the leader would be Robert Johnson. He's a senior, 4-year starter, 1,000-point scorer. And I have seen improvement over the last 2 or 3 games with him. So I think if you're looking for a leader, maybe it's got to be him. I mean, a lot of people would say Colin Hartman, but he's got the groin injury, and it seems like he's hurt constantly. So if you're looking for a leader, I think Robert Johnson is probably your best bet right now.
Well, looking at the stat sheet, I'd say you're right on. And I think Archie Miller agrees with you. He got 36 minutes out of 40 minutes, played the most minutes, scored 21 points, only had 3 turnovers individually for as much as he handled the basketball, and shot well over 50%. Now, what he's emerging to right now is a statistical leader for me, not necessarily an emotional leader. And I think your observation and the comments you made tell me that, yes, he is evolving into the statistical leader of this basketball team, meaning he's going to get the most shots. He's going to handle the ball the most time, probably get the most minutes, probably going to score the most points. But is he the emotional leader, becoming the emotional leader that we need to have on the basketball court?
Well, my point my point with that real quick is this. He's been here 4 years, so I'd imagine the other guys kind of look up to him. I think this team's tipping point is going to be whether he can become the emotional leader and not just a statistical leader.
Right. You're right on. And that's the point I was getting to by blabbering as much as I was. What I saw was all the plays he was making were for his benefit. I didn't see him really looking to make a lot of plays or to get other people involved in the offense and things of that nature. He only had 3 assists. And if you're going to handle the ball as often as he does and you're going to be the guard, you're going to have to be having, close to 10 assists a game. I mean, when you get assists, it means you're involving other players in the offense. So you're exactly right. I think we're both on the very same page here. And maybe Robert Johnson's mentality is not that one of, Quinn Buckner, Isaiah Thomas, Steve Alford. Those guys were all very strong-willed, emotional leaders. You talk about 3 of the better leaders in the basketball program through the history of the IU that we know. Yogi Ferrell became the leader. Yogi Ferrell's a great comparison right now for where Green or Johnson is. For the longest time, Yogi was all about Yogi and wanted to try and win a game on his own and wanted to try to do things his own way. But I think his senior year, when he decided to come back his senior year, I think he really understood the value of what an emotional leader could do for Coach Crean and that basketball team. And I think, Crean had one of his best years Yogi's senior year as a coach, just in terms of winning important games and doing things. But a lot of that was because I think Yogi stepped up and became an emotional leader of that basketball team and stopped trying to do it all himself and tried to get other people involved in the program. It's 5-on-5 for a reason. 1-on-5 isn't going to fly in big-time college basketball. So if we're going to anoint that responsibility to Robert, he's going to step up and start accepting it and start engaging other players on the court. I don't really buy the time about this newness factor, in my opinion, with Archie's over, because since the day he came there, those guys have been together, either watching film, talking, practicing, well long before the summer started. They were together as soon as he was announced as the new coach. And they've had plenty of time to adapt to his style and things like that. What I saw, and again, I always watch, what did this team do? We got the tip. We came down. We ran a really good offensive set. Again, it's the second game now I've seen us run a really good offensive set. I think we got a bucket out of it. And then we came back and maybe ran a couple more offensive sets. More of our points are coming in the paint. And we had 36 of our points. That's over half our points in the paint, which is good. That's what you got to have. You're scoring inside. You're drawing fouls. But then as the game wore on, I saw us get a little bit tired. And I saw us start to revert back to our natural tendencies. What we did that was not good for the basketball team. We got back to that late in the first half, where we started doing a lot of individual stuff, standing around on the perimeter, making cross-court perimeter passes, not trying to punch the ball inside, not trying to break through their zone with dribble drive penetration, but just kind of perimeter passing around until we found the shot. It kind of started strong and then just kind of slowly graduated back down to where they are. That's the mental toughness they're all going to have to overcome.
Well, see, also, I think a lot of that is just muscle memory. I think they did stuff wrong last year. They're well coached now, and you can have something. I would compare it to, this may sound crazy, but Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow always had a hitch in his delivery when he threw the football. They'd get him to the NFL, they'd coach him up, and they say, oh, he's getting better. But then when bullets start firing, he goes back to what he always did. And I think this team just has to have it pounded into them the way Coach Knight did you guys. It wasn't acceptable to be lazy. It wasn't acceptable to do stuff half-ass. You were expected to do it right all the time. I think with Archie Miller, this team is going to be that way. But I think it takes a little while for this to get ingrained into them, because when you get tired, you revert back to what your worst tendencies are.
Right, and you being a coach of football and other team sports at the levels at which you've coached at, including professional, you get a good observation of that, and I couldn't disagree with you at all. I would agree entirely 110% that that's what they're going to have to overcome. But where I say, it's kind of like I've always said about Coach Knight and how he ended up losing his job at IU. You let somebody do something. You don't let the dog drink out of the toilet for 29 years and then put the lid down. The dog doesn't understand that. Okay? If you let the dog drink out of the toilet for 29 years and on the 23rd year you just put the lid down, the dog doesn't understand why he's not drinking out of the toilet, because it becomes part of his Pavlovian theory. He understands that. It's the same. Let's just start it right now. Let's set those expectations. Let's put those in concrete right now while we can afford to do it. Because we're playing against the caliber of basketball teams that we can alter things. We can try different schemes. We can try different sets. We can do different things. We can lay down some hard laws and really hold people to it. If we pull Johnson out of the game because he's not providing the leadership we need, and we sit him down and build that wall right there. So you either jump over this wall and provide leadership, or you're going to sit. Because I've got to find a leader. Start it right now is what I say. Don't graduate into it. Just cold turkey it in. That's my theory on that. That was Coach Knight's theory. Why do we have to wait till next week? What are you going to learn between now and next week to know you got to do that?
Yeah.
What is Johnson going to learn between now and the next game to know he's got to become the emotional leader of this basketball team? It needs to happen right now.
Yeah, because you can talk about
it. In 2 weeks, we're in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
And we play Duke in between. And we got Duke in between, and then in 3 weeks we got Duke, 2 Big Ten games, and then Louisville. If we haven't figured some things out by then, we will look silly come Christmas time.
All right.
So it's time to put up or shut up right now.
So there were 2 things that I think are big deals that I did see tonight that we hadn't saw much before. And number one to me was Indiana did force turnovers tonight. They forced 17 turnovers. I think it was the best game they've had with that. And I was impressed with the ability to force South Florida to turn the ball over. I know South Florida's not Seton Hall, but I still think that's a positive that's going in the right direction.
I agree. I watched that too, and I did think that we really forced them to make a lot of turnovers with our defensive play. Basically, this team is learning to play man-to-man. South Florida had 17 turnovers in the game to our 12. So we were able to create defensively some good things that took them out of what they wanted to do. And I think that's a really good observation on your part. I saw the same thing. I liked that a lot. I think we have to continue to get better at that. But that's the concept of learning how to play man-to-man, learning about help side defense, learning about ball positioning, where the ball is and where you should be set defensively on the court to offer help. We had a couple blocking fouls in there that we just were out of position and we jumped in too late. We got inside the no take a charge zone, as it's called, or whatever it's called, a couple times, not knowing where our position was on the defensive end of the court. But that being said, I agree with you. I like the fact that we are starting to get tenacious enough defensively that we're creating turnovers. Now, what they were pathetic at was blocking out, and you can't disagree with me on that.
No,
we have no block out whatsoever. And the South Florida team was not a very athletic basketball team. All right, you're not blocking people out with the youngness that we have, and the lack of seniority we have. I'm gonna tell you, we will get run over because we're just going for rebounds. We're not going hard for the rebounds, and we're rarely putting a body. I think I can count 2 or 3 times, right? I love rebounding. That's an opportunity to bang the crap out of somebody and get away with it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The best place to cheap shot somebody is when you're blocking them out. And so I'm always looking for it. And 2 or 3 times we had a good block out, and we cleared it. We had 5 guys protecting the basket. Ball came right to one. We pushed it up, and we made a good transition into our offense. The other, 80% of the time, we were not blocking out. And even a team as non-athletic as I would say South Florida is, we're getting over our backs, getting second and third efforts, and getting 20 points off second efforts. And it's, almost half of their offense was off second effort baskets because we're not blocking out. So that's something that they're going to have to continue to get stronger at. I'm still of the volition, and I listen to the commentators on the game and their observations, and they talk about how they think Archie's going to go strictly man-to-man. That's just his mantra. I'm fine with that because primarily we were a man-to-man defense when I played, and that's always been kind of the history of Indiana. But with the youngness of this basketball team and what I'd say the lack of developed talent that we have, and I think the talent's there, it's just not developed, I think we could use a zone defense in there at some point in time. When these games start to matter, we can talk right now that I don't care really if we beat, Howard or South Florida or Indiana State or Seton Hall. As long as we're learning, we've had that discussion.
Yeah.
But when it comes time to play Michigan and Iowa and Minnesota and Northwestern and Purdue, those games matter. You got to win those games if you want to play in the dance. So I would like to see him insert just a protective zone defense that we can go to if we're just totally outmanned athletically or physically to work hard. And again, playing the zone will teach you good man principles, how to help out, because the zone's all about helping out and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So that's something I would probably, if I was sitting in practice, I'd say, hey, I'd like to hear Coach Miller's thoughts on not implementing a zone at this point in time. I know what he wants to do, and it's okay to do it now, but we're getting into this part of the season now where wins are going to start making a difference. Beating Duke, if we could manage to find a way to do that, goes a long way to us getting, a spot in the dance. You know that as well as I do.
Yeah.
If we could knock off a Duke, that'd be a big consideration for the selection committee come March.
Yeah, and
say,
the problem
Indiana,
with that is, Steve, if they can't play any zone, matching up Duke man-to-man, I think, is going to end up in a bad loss.
That's what I'm saying. You've got to have it. You've got to have it for those games where we're not going to match up man-to-man with people. And so far, he's played 100% man-to-man, which I'm all about it. But I know in my team, we had a lot of senior players, a lot of physically strong players, and, we spent 2 and 3 years learning how to play man-to-man.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. So that's just an observation I have defensively. Playing a zone will help you be in a better position to block out, but it gets all a little tougher because if you aren't guarding somebody, your tendency is to even less try to block out and just try and go for the ball if you're playing in zone. It's a double-edged sword. It's why Archie Miller gets paid the money he gets.
Right.
To figure all these things out. So.
Now, the other thing that impressed me, and this is something I think is really important if you want to win games in the Big Ten, was the fact that they came into this game shooting 58% from the free throw line, and in this game they were 19 of 25, 76%, which I'm sure Coach Miller would take. So that was another thing that I took away as a huge positive in tonight's game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's something that has to be there. And like I said, I think the thing he needs to do is just keep getting his kids tired and keep shooting a lot of free throws in practice and putting them in, situations. And it looks like they're doing that. Obviously, you're right. Another great observation. It's a big step up from what we saw early in the season. And 75% has got to be the norm. And we have to be there every game, especially as new as we are. We got to take all the 3 points they're going to give us. If we're not going to do that, then we're going to struggle again big time. So good call on the free throws. That is important. And we got to keep that percentage going up for the rest of the season.
All right, Steve, we're going to take a break and check out a sponsor from our word from our sponsor, mybookie.ag. We'll be back and we'll quiz Steve to see what he knows about the Arkansas State Red Wolves.
Hey everyone, my name is Alex Golden. I am the host of the Courtroom Podcast, an NBA debate show here at the Grueling Truth. And I'm here with one simple message. If you're watching the games, it's time to start making money. The Grueling Truth has partnered with mybookie.ag, an industry-leading sportsbook website who reminds you that where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. And that's why the Grueling Truth urges you to check out mybookie.ag. In addition to the usual thousands of odds, money lines, proposition bets, and futures offered on mybookie.ag daily, they also have in-game live betting and a mobile site that makes wagering on the go easier than ever. So join now, and mybookie.ag will give you a 50% bonus on first deposit for up to $3,000 in extra playing money. Just enter promo code TGT50. That's TGT50 to take advantage of this offer. Visit mybookie.ag, courtesy of the Grueling Truth Network, and enjoy winning today. mybookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid.
All right, guys, we're back on the Indiana Basketball Weekly with myself, Mike Goodpaster, and former Indiana basketball player Steve Risley. Steve, next up for the Indiana Hoosiers are the Arkansas State Red Wolves. The Red Wolves lost to Evansville 77-63. They also lost to Indiana's next opponent on Friday, Eastern Michigan, 76-59. They do have a win sandwiched in between ACU. I don't know what the hell ACU is, but they beat them 83-69. If you look at Arkansas State, their best player is probably their guard, Ty Cockfield. Averaged 16 points a game, field goal percentage. They've got a big man underneath named Timaeus Bruce, who shoots 59.1%. They're a decent rebounding team, but this is a team Indiana should beat worse than what they beat South Florida. Hopefully we can see them improve even more this next game, Steve.
Yeah, I go back to what we've talked about. Right now, who we're playing, because I think these guys are all kind of lumped together just with different colored uniforms. Basically, the quality of the basketball team we're playing right now, with the exception of Seton Hall, possibly even Indiana State. So I'm not even really sure it's really relevant as to who we're playing. I think it's a good thing to know something about the personnel they're throwing at us because it gives us some different opportunities to do some other things. I'm still focused on the development of Indiana as opposed to the quality of the opponent that we're playing for this point in time. In my mind, things really get rolling on November 29th when we open up against Duke. That's when Indiana starts getting visible and starts getting noticed. So that's great. It's a good stat, good analysis of who we're playing, what we're doing. Each of these teams are going to present a challenge to us. It's probably a little bit different than the other team, but they all should be challenges that we should be able to handily win. And right now, by looking at the games we played, I don't think any win's going to come handily for a while with this basketball team. I think we're going to struggle, to get our reins on control of the game or be able to control the tempo for 40 minutes and be able to set the tone early. Because if you look at all the games, we've either been behind at halftime or, neck and neck at halftime, even against Seton Hall. I think we were just up one possibly. So, who we're playing is secondary to what we're trying to accomplish and how good we're playing for ourselves. That's what we're playing in my book, is our own potential. That's the biggest opponent we have right now. So that's good analysis. Arkansas State, we come in. Eastern Michigan is going to be a little bit better than that. And I think you'll see teams just continue to elevate and get a little bit stronger, and we better be rising with that buoy. So,
yeah, I think Eastern Michigan will actually be a good test. They got a guy by the name of James Thompson who scored 23 points, 11 rebounds against Arkansas State, but he was one of the better players in the country even last year. So I think Eastern Michigan right now is 4-0, so that may be a decent test Friday. And I think that playing a decent team with a really good player is a lot better than playing Arkansas State and then just jumping right into playing Duke.
I agree. Yeah, it's graduation, a build up to get in there and to keep refining what we're doing and things of that nature. So, I think we've talked a lot about the things we need to be doing, and really what it comes down to now is just execution by the basketball team. A couple things that stuck out to me. We only had 4 steals, and while we're starting to force the issue and creating things to happen, and maybe it's making Arkansas State or Eastern Michigan like that, or even South Florida make bad plays. What we need to do is turn those into the opportunity to create steals, because when you create steals, it means you're taking the ball. You're not just knocking it out of bounds or causing them to turn it over. You're actually controlling the turnover yourself and then being able to move it into a fast break. So only 4 steals in a game. That's not very many. You would think a team that's focusing on defense would have more than 4 steals. Something to think about. The other thing, really with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 9 or 10 kids playing in the game, we only had 18 personal fouls. We're not physical enough.
Yeah.
We're not. My goal is to, if I was playing against a Magic Johnson, I told Magic, look at me in the face, dude, I'm going to foul out till this game's over. You're going to get every one of them. And then some of them are going to be a little more painful than others. But if we aren't we aren't fouling people, we aren't playing physical basketball, then we're not setting the tone for what type of team we want to be. Teams don't like to hear that we're like the Hanson brothers from the movie Slapshot. You remember that?
That was a great movie.
Great movie. One of the best sports movies of all time. But it's that same mentality. I mean, you don't want to be just a hatchet man, obviously, but physicality is a big part of this game, and it's a huge part of the Big Ten. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to, get more physical. Show me you're going to hit somebody. Show me you're going to bang hard. You're going to block out. You're going to just knock people around. You're going to stop somebody cutting through the lane. You're just going to let them know you're there. And then they'll start flinching a little bit and start feeling your presence, and they know you're there. And then they start making mistakes on their own. So more fouls, more turnovers, regardless of who we're playing right now, are things that we need to be focused on.
Well, and I think in the end, the thing that could take care of all this, and I think the biggest problem defensively, is the inability to stop the dribble drive penetration. And I think that hurts you on the boards too, because when you're getting somebody blowing right by you, it's hard to get in to get position that quickly.
Exactly. We're not playing team defense at all. Well, I say not at all. We're not. I would say right now, team defense would not be something that I would say I'm proud of the effort this team's making right now with team defense. Individual defense, getting stronger, getting better. I thought against St. Paul we banged well individually on the boards with them and underneath. We stood our ground with them. They just were bigger and stronger, but we still held our ground. We're not helping out. We're not getting in position. That dribble drive penetration is the basis of any. I don't care what kind of offensive scheme you want to put in. Everything starts with dribble drive penetration. Getting past the points up top, and then all of a sudden you have like a 3-on-2, a 2-on-1, a 4-on-3. You got an advantage. Then you're going to have an open man. So that dribble drive penetration is just critical, and if we can't stop that by other teams, then we're going to really struggle. And if we're not willing to get into fouls and bang people around, knock a guard around a little bit, teams are just going to take advantage of us. And we're not playing team defense at all. I'm just not seeing it, and I'm disappointed in that, especially coming from Coach Miller, who just continues to profess how much defense means to him. I mean, in Indiana when I played there, we took pride in defense. We had as much fun playing defense as offense. I mean, we owned the paint. The paint was our house. Nobody was coming into our house and stealing our stuff. We just weren't going to do it. And I'm not seeing that out of this team yet. They're young. We'll see what happens. But they've got to come together cohesively on the defensive end if we're going to be able to play against top talent or top caliber teams in the country. Because we aren't individually talented enough to go one-on-one with anybody.
All right, Steve, good enough. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. Do you have any final words?
No, I think we spoke to it. I just want to continue to see marked improvement in areas that we need to. I don't think that, I'm being a rocket surgeon here by any stretch of the imagination by pointing out the things we need to work on. I'm sure every armchair coach in the world, including myself, is seeing the same thing. It basically, really, they have to refine their execution. I still have a tremendous amount of faith in Coach Miller that he's delivering the right message to these kids. And, they're not getting hammered by anybody. I think we're going to start winning more games than we, at least till the beginning of the year. So we're winning games, and even though they're not the highest quality opponents, winning always makes you feel better regardless of what you do. I don't care who you beat. It makes you feel better when you win. So, but execution is key. Leadership is key. Leadership is number one. They've got to find a leader by the time we get to the Duke game. They've got to have somebody willing to step up and be an emotional leader on this basketball team, or we will just get run over. Because I saw Coach Miller got a tee today, and I saw the play. It was a dumb turnover on our part. It was due to start with a lack of a block out, then a dumb turnover on our part. And, he threw his towel down and got a technical foul. It shows me from the sideline he's trying to be the emotional leader, but somebody's got to pull those kids together, center court, and step up and say, man, he got the tee because of us. I saw Coach Miller mouthing off, my bad, that tee's on me, my bad. That should be, I got that tee because you guys aren't fierce enough to, stand up and get one on your own or be physical enough that I've got to go yell and screaming and do it for you. That's not going to happen. We can't continue to do that. So it's a work in progress. We're definitely playing at a higher level than we were against Marion and Howard, and probably even Indiana State. We're playing at a higher level. It's a young team. They're going to have their ebbs and flows. But as long as we keep taking one more step up to the top each time, baby steps, one step at a time, we all have to be pleased because we know it's a young team, and we know there is a relationship developing between coach and players, and we know that Coach Miller is playing with the coaching players that are not necessarily perfect fit for his system. So stay positive, keep winning, and let's go get Arkansas State and find out who the heck ACU is. I know what an ACL is. I don't know what an ACU is.
It's hard telling what an ACU is.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap it up. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Grueling Hoops. Correct, Steve?
Correct. Let me see if I got any Twitter questions here. No questions. So we must be answering everybody's questions right to the T. That means you and I are doing a hell of a job. Coach and I would be pleased with us tonight.
Well, that's
so
good.
If we don't get any questions, then that means they understood clearly everything that we laid out for them.
All right, Steve. I want to remind everybody you can check all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher. We will be back Wednesday night after the Arkansas State Red Wolves game. I want to remind everybody also you can go to Apple iTunes and download the Grueling Truth app to listen to all the shows. Plus, make sure you check out thegruelingtruth.net. Our NFL Pick'em show will be live Tuesday night at 10 o'clock Eastern. Our college football Pick'em show with former Alabama Crimson Tide offensive lineman Bill Searcy will be tomorrow night at 9 o'clock on the thegruelingtruth.net. Also, if you go to thegruelingtruth.net, you can find our interview on the Ringside Boxing Show tonight with Terrence Crawford, the welterweight or junior welterweight champion of the world. So make sure you check all that out. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.